that made it difficult for him to work. He's got like a combination of Crohn's, colitis, ulcerative colitis, and he's also got pancreatitis.
Oh, wow.
The issue with those things is they're treated a little bit differently. So he's on a special diet food, and he's on some medicine that he takes every day. He was doing very well with those things. However, the stress of the job is what was making those symptoms quite a bit worse. Unfortunately, he was getting to the point to where he didn't want to come to work a lot of days, and this is what these dogs love to do. It was really hard on him.
That's human nature, isn't it?
So, yeah, that is true. So, decided to retire him, and then I am very happy to say that he's at home, back to his normal self. This is how he was all the time. So he's excelling at that life, and with normal exercise and stuff, he's definitely slowing down a lot. It gets to him. He tires out pretty quick, but as far as retired life's been treating him so far, it's been going very well, so I'm very pleased with that. So he worked for about 5.5 years. I'm really happy with everything he did. I greatly appreciate the opportunity from the city of Kent. Chief Lee was the chief when I got the dog and gave me the opportunity. A few specific people I'd really like to thank. Sergeant Ennemoser, who's here, that runs our canine program. Lieutenant Ennemoser, who was my immediate supervisor for most of Iron's career. And then there's a couple canine handlers from Stowe that helped me out quite a bit. Al and Steve Miller in the training. And then also when I got hired, Marty Gilliland as well. So I'm thrilled to be, to have this experience, to be able to work the dog here. This is my daughter Layla. Layla's 3.5. So, I'd like to retire him and hang on to him, and I figured I'd bring my family so you guys could see this is who he's going to be taking over from now. So,
That's great.
if anybody has any questions about him or anything. But.
I just have a quick
Gwen?
comment that I was lucky enough to see him perform in a few demonstrations, and I'd like to thank you for being so generous, kind of doing the demonstrations the times I saw it, and also there was an event with some autistic teenagers that Officer Poe brought Iron to, and it was awesome. The kids absolutely loved it. So thank you for your generosity of that. And please express to Iron how much we truly appreciate his hard work on that, because I know it's a huge commitment of time and energy. I know that you don't receive any additional compensation for it, or I don't believe. I could be wrong, but
there is a little bit of compensation that we get as canine handlers.
Yeah.
For some of the time they schedule us a little bit differently, so there's some compensation for that.
But certainly not for the 24-hour commitment that you have to taking care of a...
It's rewarding enough that I think the compensation is there. It is a lot of work, and I'm sure a lot of the guys can tell you, but I mean, we get to take our dogs to work every day. We've got backup in the car with us, and it's been awesome. As far as like the demos and things like that go, I absolutely love doing them. We were on night shift the entire career until this year, so we were on day shift for 2019. And we spent a lot of time in the schools, and he has done very, very well with the switch from working mode to going in and doing the demos mode with the kids and everything like that. He did really well with that. So the community policing side of it, he was just the perfect dog for it. It went very well. So he's just a really social dog. That's why I'm happy to leave him off leash in here. And sometimes if somebody takes his ball away, he goes for the ball, not intentionally going for somebody, but that'd be the only thing. But I mean, he's a very well-mannered dog. He's got a really good demeanor, and I think that's why it worked out so well for us.
Thank you very much.
Tracy?
Though he's retired, will you continue to do the demonstrations with him, or is he going to be completely
I'm not
retired?
able to do that with the city as far as demonstrations. I think that like the dog days of summer and things like that, I'd like to stop down too with them. There is one of the classrooms at one of the elementary schools that we went to quite a bit, and they've talked about bringing him back a couple times, like read books and things like that to him. So maybe some things like that. But, we're not going to maintain the same type of training, because that type of work is what gets him excited. So the stress level with him is he's not stressed about doing the job like maybe we would be. It's just so intense, and he's so into it. So that type of stress on him is what kind of I'm trying to take away from him. So the walking and doing his things at home, so that I can't keep up with that same type of training to be able to do those demos and things.
Anybody else? Well,
Good luck and have fun.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you're not done.
That's great.
We do have some paperwork to do. So, would the clerk please read draft
Good luck
number
with your daughter, too.
2019-128 in title only?
Draft 2019-128, an ordinance authorizing Police Chief Michelle Lee to transfer ownership of Iron, a police K-9, to Officer Dominic Poe, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Who seconded it? John. John, please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer? Yes. Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner? Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Move adoption. Second.
Second by Garret. Anybody want to discuss adoption? Please call the roll on adoption.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar? Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer? Yes. Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Resolution 2019-128 is passed.
Okay, it's
All right, it's
official,
all
buddy.
yours.
There you
Thank
go.
you very much.
You're
All right, have
retired.
fun.
He doesn't get a gold watch, but he gets.
Kind of a thing to recognize retirement. And I don't know whether these are the proper toys for him or not, but
I think you'll have fun with those.
all right. You told me ropes.
Yeah.
So, Iron,
He's taking your job,
you're
Mayor.
thanking him.
Aww, taking a tour.
How cool is that?
That is so cool.
That's
We
hysterical.
got the bag.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, no, I appreciate everything.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Aye. Council's gone to the dogs.
I like the way he works the room.
Yeah, he
Like, I
does
got
work the
this.
room, yeah.
Well, moving on to the agenda, not that one thing's more important than the other, but Mr. Ruler, you have two introductions to make?
Oh, sure. We've got a couple new department heads in town, and I think you've seen them, heard about them perhaps, but maybe not had the face-to-face. So the mayor suggested we bring them tonight, and at least Kevin got all dressed up. He looks really good. He's normally in kind of that Parks and Rec gear, but Kevin Schwarzkopf is the new park. You guys want to come up and introduce yourselves? I mean, I'll give you a little, I know your names, but after that, I'm probably going to be pretty short on. I've had more time with Kevin to know a little more of his background, and it's really, personally, I think I wasn't on the panel, but I think he was a great hire. He's got a great background experience, and we've already started picking his brains for different things he's done in other cities, so.
Thank you, Dave. If somebody throws a ball, I'll go fetch it too, so. I came here from Colerain Township, which is a suburb of Cincinnati. I have one thing that's kind of unique. I actually worked in three of the, what I consider the smaller cities with big universities. I worked in Athens, Ohio for about 19 years. I worked in Oxford for a couple of years, and now here I am in Kent, so.
Finally upgraded.
Yeah, finally got the one I graduated from. I couldn't get in the other two, but it's neither here nor there. So came from Colerain, was there about 9 years, was Park and Recreation Director there and also the Roads Director. I've been here since September 9th and love the community. People are all great. The trails, the parks, just the downtown itself. So I'm enjoying it so far. I've been to a couple of Rotary Club meetings with Roger, and he's kind of strong-armed me into that, but I'll probably go along with that. So unless there's any questions, that's really all I have.
Any questions? Welcome,
Biggest
Garret?
challenge and opportunity?
I think the biggest challenge really is just getting to know, the people, the parks, what's in the parks, what are some of the facilities, what are some improvements maybe that we need to be looking at in the near future. We do have a fairly big trail project coming up at Brady's Leap, which engineering's helped with a lot. We'll probably have until 2021. So those are some of the challenges, but also I think those challenges also what make the job exciting is I enjoy doing projects. I've done millions of dollars worth of projects. In Athens, we actually built a recreation center there while I was there. I know that was one of the things that was talked about here a couple of years ago, but I built skate parks and dog parks and aquatic centers. So I enjoy that part of the job, but I also think it's really important just to take care of what you have. So that's one of the goals that I have, is just to make sure we don't let deteriorate what we've already built.
Thank you. Good luck.
Robin?
Was wondering, as a priority, where is the levy going to be with you and the board, huh? Oh, I thought so. What position are you putting that as a priority for the Parks and Rec board and yourself as a leader?
The levy for the recreation center.
Correct. Is that still?
We've discussed it. I mean, it was discussed during my interview. It's been discussed. I've been to 2 park board meetings, or have held 2 park board meetings. We have a meeting tomorrow. We're going to talk about a park master plan, which that park master plan will encompass really all our facilities and all our parks. And it could include a recreation center, but I think that's a little bit out on the horizon. I think, I need to get to know the community better and kind of find out, if the community does want a recreation center, why didn't it pass the last time? And it didn't pass, it passed fairly poorly, or it failed fairly by quite a few votes. So I think it's something we need to investigate. I think recreation centers are important to a community. I know we have some private centers and we have the university and various things like that, but when you have your own community center, it really does become your focal point for your community. And I know in Athens, they take a lot of pride in their center. If ever they have a larger, council meeting where they expect a big crowd, that's where it's held. Most of those civic clubs meet there, and the schools meet there, and some of the schools even do graduations there. So it's really become a focal point for the community that they own. So we're not going to Ohio University's Ping Center or the Athens High School to do things. They're coming to what they consider their own facility.
So you're going to offer opportunity for getting feedback from the community? You have a much longer window to deal with it, and it's not anything that's going to be immediate for you.
No, and I think that does need a lot of planning. It does need a lot of input from the community, and also I think we need to discuss, what was missing last time that maybe people thought could have been part of the process that maybe it wasn't. But the master plan itself will take over a year, so hopefully that becomes kind of part of that plan, and we'll just see where that takes us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Good luck.
And then the new health commissioner is Joan Seidel, and I haven't had a lot of working time with her, but she sort of had to hit the ground running because her accreditation process was knee-deep, and the site visit was just last week or 2 weeks ago. It goes, so she's been busy, and it's good. It's good that she had some experience in Kent and the health board already. So with that, I'll let you tell them more about you.
Yeah, so about 4.5 years ago, I was before you asking for this position on the health board, and so you never know who your volunteers will turn into, but it was a great experience. As much as I enjoyed working with the board, I really am very honored to be working at the health department in this capacity. It's a great group of people. They're very knowledgeable and very passionate about what they do. So I bring about 30 years of nursing experience with me, and I hope to grow the department in some areas that way, because I think we already have a fairly robust program in terms of housing and food safety, but maybe there's some opportunities there. So I've already been working on reaching out to some formal leaders at Kent State University, but also some informal leaders in the community, like Leander, who owns a barbershop downtown, to see if maybe there's some partnerships we could develop there. So I'm really excited about the opportunities and the potential in the future.
Okay. Questions? Anybody?
When do you expect to hear back on the accreditation? That's big news.
I know. I dreamed last night we passed, so but they said March would probably be the earliest, but there's a possibility it won't be until June. So it just depends when it gets put before the accreditation board, but.
Super, a lot of hard work, but it's valuable. Heidi?
Yeah. Could you say a little bit about what a health commissioner does?
Well, I'm still kind of learning that, but in terms of overseeing all the programs that we have and making sure that they're running effectively and efficiently, and that we're reaching out to those groups of people that need to be connected to services or need to be made aware of the services that are there available to help them. Yeah, that's a big part.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Welcome aboard. Good luck.
I'm a 30-plus year Kent resident, so it's nice to give back.
And neighbor.
Right.
That's super.
Ward 5.
Thanks,
just
Joan.
saying.
Okay, I need approval of the minutes from the October 16th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second by Garret. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Under communication, audience communication, anybody sign in, Amy?
Yes, one person, Christopher Myers.
While the law does not require council to provide time for the public to comment, we have historically invited the public to make comment, and we appreciate their input. This is the time when residents and others can comment on matters that concern them. However, we will not engage in any debate, and as president of council, I reserve the right to end any public comment that is disruptive, embarrassment, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. We ask that when you come to the podium that you speak your name and address clearly for the record, and we will give you 3 minutes.
My name is Christopher Myers. I live at 220 East Elm Street here in Kent. If I embarrass somebody, it's because I'm telling the truth, and they maybe just get embarrassed by hearing it. My first comment is regarding a pay raise you gave to somebody, which I question. You gave a pay raise to City Manager Ruller, a man who turned me in for protesting he knew not what. Under questioning, he admitted to it. His email turning me in is part of a police report against me by ex-council clerk Tara Grimm. Pretty bizarre, I think. Item 2, because of my efforts, the Records Commission recently voted to extend the retention period of council meeting audio recordings from 0 years 3 years ago to 10 years. You will no longer be able to hide behind deleted recordings, a victory for transparency. The playing field is not level when you can talk about a citizen in secret executive session. I propose that audio recordings be made when talking about a citizen, and that the citizen be invited to attend. You are a legislative body and should not be able to, nor should you want to, put a wall between yourselves and the citizenry. That is not transparency. Further, how can citizens make a reasoned voting decision without knowing who is saying what behind the backs of fellow citizens? 4, according to Mayor Fiala, he and Mrs. Fiala were accused of stalking by ex-clerk Tara Grimm. Stalking is a very serious crime, and I think that you should request an investigation of the allegation by the county prosecutor or the Attorney General of the state of Ohio. Mr. and Mrs. Fiala are not the first that Mrs. Grimm has accused of stalking. I also want to say that as a citizen, I commend Tom Myers for his decision to make a motel down on the old David Compressor Erie Car Shops property. It is a benign thing. It won't make a lot of noise. It won't be a traffic problem. It's just a wonderful thing that he's doing with that piece of property. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further?
No further.
All right. Written communication, please.
Standing Rock Cemetery meeting minutes for October 10th, 2019 were received October 3rd, 2019. Civil Service meeting agenda for October 21st was received October 17th, 2019. The Portage County Health District third quarter report received October 17th, 2019. The Planning Commission agenda for November 5th and staff report for October 24th was received on October 25th, 2019. Notification of resignation received of Jack Nutzel from the Parks and Recreation Board effective October 15th, 2019. Notification of resignation received of Joan Seidel from the Kent City Board of Health effective September 21st, received October 7th, 2019. Notification of the canceled Planning Commission meeting on November 5th. The agenda items previously submitted have been moved to November 19th meeting. The Board of Zoning Appeals public hearing and business meeting for November 18th and staff report for November 18th was received on November 8th. The Health Board meeting for November 12th and meeting minutes for October 8th was received on November 12th. Also attached was the Health Department's 2019 statistical report. And last but not least, the letter of thanks to the City of Kent for the Democracy Day public hearing from the Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose received November 7th, 2019. I also received some communication after the agenda was published on November 13th. I received a Civil Service Commission meeting agenda for November 18th on November 15th. The Board of Zoning Appeals meeting minutes from October 21st. I received those on November 19th. And then I also received a new liquor license request, received November 19th, which was yesterday, for Zoos Limited, doing business as Firefly, 124 South Water Street, Kent. Chief Lee returned with no objections.
Move to return with no objections.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
That's
it.
all.
All right, thank you. Understanding, committee report, there's no business. Community development, Mr. Kuhar.
I know they told
Approval.
Separate the minutes out.
I didn't hear you.
Separate the minutes.
I'd like to approve the minutes of November 6th and action number 1.
No, just the minutes.
Oh, just the minutes, okay.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrara. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
One abstention.
You want the action separated?
No.
No? And approve the
City manager.
2 actions recommended? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Discussion. Okay, passes.
All right. We'll do the rest of that. Would the clerk read draft number 2019, 121, title only?
Draft 2019-121, a resolution accepting the conclusions about impediments to fair housing choice and the actions to be implemented to address any identified impediments as specified in the 2019 analysis of impediments to fair housing choice and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Call the roll on suspension.
Mr. DeLeone?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
2019-121 has passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-122 in title only?
Draft 2019-122, a resolution recognizing the historical significance of the South End neighborhood and its contribution to the city's history and formally memorializing it as the historic South End and declaring it an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Roger. Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Adoption.
Second.
Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
And that concludes community development.
Thank you. I got to back up on the agenda. I forgot the city manager report. Jack?
Move items 1 through 8 on the city manager's report.
Second.
Second by Mike. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign as the producer.
No, thank you, Mayor.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay, Finance Committee, Mr. DeLeone.
I'd like to move the committee meeting minutes from November 6th.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
One abstention.
I'd also like to move actions 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrara. Is there any discussion on the actions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Would clerk read draft number 2019-123 in title only?
Draft 2019-123, a resolution determining the to proceed to submit to the electors of the City of Kent the question of the renewal of the city's existing 1.16 mil tax levy for the purpose of current expenses pursuant to sections 5705.19A and 5705.191 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second by Mike. Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes. Move adoption.
Second by Mike. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone? Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
2019-123 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-124 in title only?
Draft 2019-124, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2018-142, the current appropriation ordinance passed December 19th, 2018, so as to adjust appropriations, transfers, and advances from the various funds of the City of Kent to individual accounts for the current expenses of the city for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Roger. Please call the roll for suspension.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Roger. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
2019-124 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-125 in title only?
2019-125, an ordinance accepting a donation in the amount in excess of the amount paid by the City of Kent for an access easement at West River Place and the appraised value of an Ohio Department of Transportation's ODOT appraisal and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Please call the roll on suspension.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
2019-125 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Is there further, Mike? All right. Health and Public Safety, Mr. Amrhein.
Yes, I'd like to move the committee meeting minutes of November 6th.
Second.
Second by Mike. Discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Abstain.
One abstention.
Like to move the 3 actions recommended.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrara. Is there any discussion on the actions? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, passes. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-126 in title only?
Draft 2019-126, an ordinance amending Section 353.02 of the codified ordinances of the City of Kent titled Parking Regulation Authorization to Restrict Parking Along Wolcott Avenue and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara? Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer? Yes. 2019-126 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-127 in title only?
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to contract on behalf of the city of Kent with the Office of the Public Defender, Portage County, for the provision of legal counsel to indigent persons charged with potential penalty of incarceration for offenses committed in violation of the ordinances of said city for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Move suspension.
Second by Mike. Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrer. Any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer? Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
2019-127 is passed.
Okay, thank you. Is there further, Mr. Amrhein?
That's all.
Okay, there's nothing under land use, there's nothing under,
We got committee meetings, Mr. Mayor. Do we have to?
oh, the action
Minutes.
record, Megan. Okay,
Minutes.
go ahead, Mr. Ferrer.
I move approval of the committee meeting minutes.
No.
Streets and sidewalks?
No,
No,
streets
it's
and
actually
sidewalks.
streets and
Oh, yeah.
That'd be me.
Be Roger.
Mr. Sidoti.
Hey, Garrett and I look alike. I can understand it.
I don't think so.
You're right. I'd like to move that the committee meeting minutes of November 6th be approved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. There's
Abstain.
one abstention.
Too much discussion already on that.
No, okay. We're down to special committee report. Is there anything? Unfinished business, anything? New business? Items need council action or referral? Anything? Future council meetings? Anything?
I think we should have one.
Pardon?
I think we should have one. Why is that on there?
Council members' comments, anything? Or was that your comment, Tracy? We're in their comments
So
now.
schedule for council meetings. It's like, yeah.
It was funny.
John?
I thought it was fun.
I'd just like to compliment the management of Flash Bikes for taking such swift action, since I think they sensed that there were people in the community that weren't happy with the way they were managing their bikes. And if they continue to act like they have been the last couple of weeks, when spring breaks, I think that's going to be a great program, and it's going to work very well. If they don't, I think there'll be people watching.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sidoti?
I really think last Thursday night with the city and the chamber awards, I just want to compliment all of the people from the city who were standing at the mic, who were making presentations, and I think that the way it all came across, it was just a great night. And I think we're one of those rare communities where the whole community comes together and we celebrate, the good things going on. So I just want to compliment everyone from the city for their participation. It was really good.
You have
Did that include Dave? Well, I was trying to keep a straight face there.
We just have to give Dave a couple pair of glasses.
Well,
He'll
all I
be
know
right.
is this, I don't want to hear any more about when I get in front of a mic after.
We've heard that too.
What are you saying?
Anybody else?
You've learned all bad habits from me.
All right, under the mayor's report, I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, spend time with your friends and relatives and family, and just remember what it's all about. Motion adjourned.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Wow, that was a short meeting.
Your friends and your family.
Tom always said.
I think last week it went to almost like to
It's a
9:30.
different connotation and it really bothers me.
Last meeting, yeah.
We got a 23-pound turkey, so somebody better.